Okay, part 4 of how I transitioned, how I evolved from pastor to priestess. So here I am in Sedona, Arizona, climbing Red Rock Mountain, and I have had the most amazing release that I could think of. Now, it was in the physical that I felt this. I've talked a little bit before, like the year before that, I had an ayahuasca experience, but in the spirit, I felt that release. On this Red Rock Mountain was the physical embodiment of letting go of all that no longer served me. My opinions of people, my thoughts of people. There was no more blame. There was no more anger. There was no more rage. It was just, this is what it is. I chose this path. I chose to be this version of me. And I chose every part of the story along the way to be an alarm or a reminder to just remember who I am. And so it was at the end of that retreat, and we're sitting around, the ladies, we're all sitting around Aaron, and Aaron is just talking to each one of us, telling us all different things. And she gets to me and she's like, that's it. That's your story. That's your story. You're going to tell. There are people, she said, there are lots of people who need to hear the story of how you transition from pastor to priestess. And so here I am telling a story, and it's still an ever evolving story because there's so many layers. We just went to Salem and we talked about like the witch trials. There were witch trials everywhere. We went to Salem to commemorate, to honor the women who were women and men that died in the Salem witch trials. And what I realized a week before going to Salem, my throat was itching, and I'm thinking, why? Because so many times women have struggled, have been silenced, have been choked, have been punished for not speaking their truth. Because when you speak your truth, sometimes as women, it offends the people who were in the story with you. And they don't want to hear that. They don't like that. They don't want the truth to be known. They rather their ego be protected. They rather their version of the story be the one that is considered, accurate. And it's not about a right or wrong. We all have our experiences. What I experienced was necessary and required for me to evolve, but it doesn't change the fact that it's my story, and it doesn't change the role that the other people played in the story to help me. So a lot of times women are silenced, and it's just that patriarchal system no longer can thrive. It's not thriving. We are women who have voices. We are women. We are divine feminine women who are tapping into their power, remembering that they are the most powerful beings on this planet. And so it just doesn't work anymore. And so as I was in Salem and I started thinking about that, I thought so many times I wanted to share certain things in the story, and it's like, no, because that person might be offended. No, because this person might think this. Oh, well, this person might not understand this. So fucking what? It's my story, and nobody else can change that. And the only reason why I got through so much of what I got through was because I studied other women's stories. Had they not told the story, I may not have known that I could get through. You look at a Louise Hay. Louise Hay is phenomenal. You hear her story, and because of that, I was able to understand how to forgive, how to let go, how not to be angry. Other women have told their stories, and because they were not scared, they were not fearful, they were not they chose to overcome shame, and they overcome the guilt. They told the story. I was able to see that, and so I understand that that's my role. Aaron was very clear. You overcame. It was a reason, because there are so many other women who need to hear this story. A lot of us get stuck in religion. A lot of us get stuck being persecuted because we've been taught that story, and we don't know that there are other paths out there that can help. There are other healing modalities that can support you, that can help you increase your awareness, help you ascend. Right? Help you ascend. And the way to ascend is to go within. And when you go within and you take responsibility for who you are, that you are source, nobody did or can do anything to you that you didn't allow. And that's tough. That's tough. But when you can accept that type of accountability and that type of responsibility, that's real God shit. That's real God shit right there. You're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. It makes sense. So I tell my story now because I understand there's somebody listening. If it's just one, I went through it for you, baby girl. If it's just one, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with telling the story so that my children know, hey, there's a difference between someone being a good father and a good husband. Those are two different things. Both of my exes are very present dads in my children's life. I'll tell you in a minute, I'm not a single mom. I'm not a single mom. I'm not. I don't have to do it by myself. I'm grateful for that. I am a single woman, but I'm not a single mom, because they are present dads. They are involved dads. They are attentive dads. They are not perfect dads, just like I'm not a perfect mom, but we both, all three of us, have decided to show up for our children. That's it. We decided to show up for them. And so whatever happened in the dynamic of the relationship is irrelevant. It was what was necessary at the time. We got the most beautiful versions of each of us in these little humans, right? In these other beings. And that's what we nurture. So I can tell my story because what had to transpire between us was more about my evolution. Had nothing to do with whether they're good dads. It has nothing to do with it. I wrote a book about my life leading up to my first divorce. And in that book, I told my story. Now, there were things that he did. I didn't even have to focus or harp on it, because you can figure it out, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what my second husband, it doesn't matter. What matters is how I responded to it, how I allowed it to impact me, how I allowed it to transform me, and how I came out on this side of where I am right now. Able to be in my right mind, to smile, to still love, to still want the very best for him. I don't want anything to happen to him because I don't want my children to hurt. I don't think he deserves anything bad to happen to him. He has his own story. My first husband has his own story, and both of them know if at any point they needed me, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna show up because that's just who I am. Because I'm so grateful for the roles that they chose to play in my life. It was hard roles, but they did. And I appreciate them. I'm grateful for them. So how I transitioned from pastor to priestess was that. As I began to study my power, as I began to understand that I can manipulate energy, I can move things, I'm an alchemist, I can make things happen, I can align with things, it began to give me a different level of awareness. And so now, yes, I can tell the story. Yes, I can talk about it. I can talk about magic. I can talk about spells. I can talk about Reiki. I can talk about a whole lot of things that I've studied. But the most important thing of anything that I learned is realizing that I am source. I am all that was. I am all that is. I am all that ever shall be. I am the most powerful being in my story. I am the main character in my story. I am responsible. I take accountability for my actions, for who I am and the life that I live. I am the only one that exists in this story. And the moment that I realized that, I realized, oh my gosh, if I could help every other version of me come to that revelation, that self-realization, that self-actualization, that's how I can raise the vibration of the planet. That's how I can support humanity. Because I'm just a spirit being having a human experience. In my spirit, there's one consciousness. So we're all connected. So as I evolve, every other version of me is evolving, whether I ever come in contact with them or not in this physical realm. What I do affects every other vibration, every other frequency around me, every other being around me is affected by the things that I do. And I know that's hard for people to understand. So these videos may not be for everybody, but the women or the people that will learn and hear and feel supported, seen and heard from it, that's why I do what I do. That's why I tell my story. That's why I can talk about it with no shame, no guilt, no fear. That's it, baby. That's how I evolved from a pastor to a priestess.